What's up, YouTube? WinterGuard here. Today we're going to get into a build that's been kind of floating around the internet. It's a hybrid Sorc build that I tested out, and it is probably one of the most viable builds I've seen to date. I've always been a pure spec Sorc up until now. I usually like to run everything into one spec and let Merc handle immunes, but this one is a little different, and I think it's more specific to D2R. And that is the Frozen Orb Firewall spec. And a couple reasons for this. People were talking about how Firewall seems to be OP in D2R, and there's some theory crafting going on as to why that is, but nothing official. Some of the things make sense. For those that don't know, Firewall it just seems or feels extremely broken right now. And that was not the case in regular previous D2. It was a strong spell, but I think there might have been something that changed. There's some theories that the difference in frame rate between the old game and the new game makes the tick damage work a little faster. Could be server tick rates. There's something to Firewall now where the tick damage seems to be doing a little more than it previously did, to the point where, and you'll see, I'll show you a couple of kills here, that Firewall, even without full synergies, is just crazy damage. I'm running it. Frozen Orb is going to be the main damage in this build, with Firewall mainly to deal with the cold immunes. But even being the case, you'll probably still use Firewall for the boss kills, because it's just insane once you get the firewalls rolling how much damage this thing cranks out. So I'm going to show that. And also another thing, it's not heavily gear dependent. So you can start this with fairly beginner gear, and it will still be very effective. Most people run either Blizzard or Frozen Orb at the beginning anyways, but if you add the Firewall as a secondary for immunities, this is probably going to be the main build going into ladder for everybody starting out on sorceress, because you won't need to sway away from this at any point. There's nothing that's going to slow you down. This is just going to be the build to go with. So let's just show this real quick. And this is not something that I stumbled across this with on a couple of different videos. The main one I saw was Cooley, who got into some little different setup with Firewall that he got from somebody else. So I'll link that video in the description, just so you guys see what he's talking about. I'll explain it a little bit here. But let's look at the spec. And again, your main spec is going to be Frozen Orb. So you'll do, the single points until you get to Firewall or Frozen Orb. You're going to need Cold Mastery. Now, the one synergy that Frozen Orb has is Ice Bolt. So you're going to put the 20 hard points into Ice Bolt, Frozen Orb. Everything's going to be single. Cold Mastery, up until it's minus 130 enemy cold resist, go somewhere between there, 135, 140. I wouldn't go much past that, because I think the max cold resist anything's going to have is 150. So you should be able to get away with that and save some of the points to go into Firewall, as I'll show. So again, single points and only 20 hard into Frozen Orb and Ice Bolt, which gets you the one synergy for Orb, and that's going to actually be your main attack. Lightning, of course, you're one into telekinesis and teleport. All right, and here's where it gets a little squirrely, nothing crazy, but what you want to do is just get to Firewall. You'll put the 20 hard points into Firewall, and then from there, there's some theory crafting behind the reasoning behind the way this is set up. So Warmth is the one synergy that gives you the most damage per point. See, the synergy for Firewall is Warmth and Inferno, where you get 4 points per for Warmth. So disregard Inferno. You won't dump any points into that. But the theory craft behind this is that you want to have 3 more points in fire mastery than you do in warmth. And the way the numbers shake out, it's kind of the optimal build to get the most per tick out of firewall. Right now, what I did was I got it to where there was 3 where fire mastery was 3 higher, but then I leveled up, and so you'll alternate between the 2 to keep the spread. So the next point, when I level, I'll go here, and then fire mastery will be a 3 up again. So you'll just go back and forth. So right now, warmth is 1 more point than the optimal, but then the next point here will make it optimal again. So that's kind of the build. There's nothing fancy about this. There's there's some theory crafting behind the reasoning for this. I don't know the numbers myself, but somebody has crunched in. Cooley made reference to this, so take a look at his video, but he doesn't really explain the breakdown. But in effect, the outcome was that there was more per tick on firewall. So as you see, I got a plus 11 skills base on gear. So you'll see right now my firewall is at 10,000 per second. And you can stack up to 3 firewalls before the first one times out. So if you're looking at, once you get it rolling on a boss, at 30,000 damage a second, which is just nuts. And again, I'll show you how quick stuff burns down with that. But that's an insane amount of damage. So you'll probably spam firewall for the bosses, and then just in general for clears, you'll just spam that on cold immunes. But otherwise, you use your orb for general clearing, because you can move and throw that quick. You don't have to worry about stationary targets. And that's the only thing about firewall, is you'll get into issues with stuff moving around. With bosses, that's a little simpler, and they take up more space, so it's easier to hit them with a firewall. So that is where firewall comes into play against the bosses. It just works better because they're a little more stationary, and also you'll use that again against the cold immunes. So that's pretty much it. And again, it's not gear dependent. You can start this as a beginner sork and level with it. And you're probably not going to switch off of it that much. So just to look at my gear real quick. I'm running a Hodo, Shaco, a Viper, Mara's, a Spirit, Trex. I'm waiting to get some more Travs for here. 2 Nagels, and this is kind of a base Magic Find build. I have like 260-ish Magic Find in Iraqs, various Magic Find, and I got a couple of 20 lifers that I'll probably replace at some point. And I got 1 Cold Skiller for my Frozen Orb. And again, one other thing with your attribute allocation. And this is where I spin off from Cooley a little different. He prefers to be a little tankier, so he dumps points into Dex to get max block and runs a different shield than I do. I prefer to just dump points into Vitality. I don't worry about max block. His reasoning behind that is that, teleporting around, it'll save you if you jump into a bad pack, and you can get out before you completely get destroyed. But, I mean, I haven't had really that kind of an issue, so I haven't really worried about putting into max block. Definitely would go with that build for hardcore. 1 bad teleport, game's over, and you're starting again. So that's definitely not something that you want to mess around with. The effects of that in softcore, not that big a deal. If you get one shot for some reason, blinking into a bad pack. But I'm not going to worry about that a whole lot. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to just show you a couple of clears. We'll probably just do Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal. Andy's, you could kill her with whatever. It's not that big a deal. But those 3, I'm just going to show you how fast it goes. And again, the damage is just absolutely insane. So we're going to get into that now and go ahead and do a couple clears. I'm not going to show the full thing. I'll just show you the boss kills and a couple of key points if they come up. But let's go ahead and get into it. If you enjoy the video, give me a like and a subscribe. I got the link to my Discord in the description. Join us there. We got a lot of people joining up. There's an event this weekend that I had details in the previous videos. Check that out if you want to get in on that. But let's get into it. Okay, Mephisto first. If you want to mess around with clearing stuff here, these are cold immune, so you can just use firewall to burn those down. And pretty straightforward there. If you want to deal with council, they're lightning immune, so you can use fire or frozen orb for this. Doesn't really matter. Everything's going to die, so it is worth burning them down just because they do have a decent drop chance for different stuff. And that one was both cold and fire immune, so you just get the Merc to deal with that. But as far as Mephisto, once you get the firewalls rolling, it's pretty straightforward. Insanely quick, even though he moved around a little bit there, otherwise it'd have been even faster. Laying of hands again. I don't need those. So let's go check out Diablo next. Alright, we're at the first seal that I mess around with. You get the fire or this, not either one. They're lightning immune, so doesn't come into play in this this situation. So pretty straightforward, simple. Again, you use frozen orb for your regular mobs, just a little quicker. Whenever you hit one of the fire or cold immunes, just throw a firewall under them, and usually you get a lot of collateral damage if there's other stuff within that line. Boss packs, not that big a deal. On occasion you will hit the cold and fire immune, but they're going to be singles, so you just deal with that with the Merc. You can clear everything else around it. So, alright, we're at the second seal. Occasionally, Decease, he will be cold and fire, but not every time, so it was just one firewall absolutely destroys him. Well, wasn't even watching the Merc. Do have to watch that pack because they tend to hit pretty hard. Okay, and then third seal, these guys are always fire immune, so this is where you just orb them down. Not that big a deal. Occasionally they could hit kind of hard, so you have to watch your Merc. But see, in this case there, he's Infector's cold and fire immune. And on to Diablo. Sometimes he'll dance around, but usually the Merc can hold him in place long enough to burn him. So, and fire works fine on him. As you see, once you get 3 stacks up, he's dead. Alright, now we're on Baal, and we're going to show the waves here. First wave, normally just orb, since the boss is fire immune. But that one's never an issue, that one always goes quick. Second wave, I like the preemptive firewall. I guess depending on what res you get, can be kind of a pain sometimes, but again, not that big a deal. Again, preemptive firewalls. These guys melt. Look at that. Now this next pack, fourth wave. Now even though these are listed as poison immune, they have an extremely high fire resist. So it's better just to orb these guys. And then the last pack, of course, is fire immune, so you just use orb there. This is where sometimes static can be nice, but not really necessary. You can kite these around the room if you're having a hard time with them, or if they're smashing your merc, you can just back them off by telling backwards. Alright, Baal now, and well, missed that first one. But just build your firewall. And of course, there's going to be times when it just seems like he just bounces everywhere. But if he's stationary like this, you can really burn him down extremely quick. See, when he starts doing this stuff, it becomes kind of a pain. But if he sits still for any amount of time, he's dead. What would a kill be without a pair of IK something? But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's pretty straightforward. Just rotate between orb and firewall depending on what immunities you're running up against. Firewall on the bosses will be probably your quickest down. Play around with it. Let me know what you guys think. I think this is going to be the build going in the ladder. Unless they do something balance-wise against firewall, which I somehow doubt that they're going to play around with that. It'd probably be just crazy uproar in the community if they even touch stuff like that. So I have a feeling this one's here to stay. So this is probably going to be the primary setup. Minor variations, like I'm saying, for where maybe you put attribute points. But the basic build is going to probably be this. The only reason I see to switch off from this is if you're just bored and want to try something else. But if you're wanting fast clears, this is probably going to be the way to go. Maybe some alternates with people that like Blizzard over Frozen Orb. I think Frozen Orb is a little more viable just in the being able to place that on the fly and hitting stuff no matter what. You can miss with Blizzard if you misplace it. So I think Frozen Orb's probably going to be the better option with Firewall. Oh, and there's one thing I forgot at the beginning. The breakpoint is of course still 105. That's pretty standard. You only mess with 117 if you're going lightning. So you have some wide range of gear that you can use to get to that 105 breakpoint. It's not that hard to hit. So I think this is going to be the one. I probably play this for a while, and if anything, I'll probably switch to a different character before I switch this build again. Let me know what you guys think. If you've already tried it, if you have some alternates or some minor changes to this that maybe you think's even a little better, a little more viable, let me know. So we'll leave it at that. Again, a link to our Discord's in the description if you want to join our community. We got a pretty large group already built up, so feel free to join us. Check out my last challenge video. I'll have that on the end card. If you want to see that, there's some people that are going to be participating in the challenge video. But we're going to leave it there for now. You guys have a great day. Keep on farming.